talked about the street experience. And very good program, Chief. I think that was helpful and pretty well received. I think that crowd stayed till almost 1:20, I think. So, thank you. We had a great 4th of July parade. Some of you got to ride the fire truck. I have never seen a larger parade crowd in Georgetown.
That's awesome.
It was massive. There were just people everywhere. And I wanted to be sure and tell the council that our old fire truck, Old Faithful, now that we've reacquired it, folks love her. I rode on Old Faithful in the parade, and so many people as we went by, when they saw the engine and read the Old Faithful, you could see them go for their phone. They wanted that. That was the picture. So I knew that you all appreciate knowing that the crowd responded well to that old truck. We have a young lady in Georgetown named Madison Blankenship. I got to meet her a couple of years ago, just remarkable. She's a transplant survivor, and she had qualified for the Transplant Games of America. Just delightful young lady and her family, and COVID and other things put a stop to all of those plans. But it's now back on the schedule, and next week she will be traveling to San Diego, California to represent Scott County and Kentucky in the Transplant Games of America. So that's just awesome. And the fact that after 2 years she's getting to go do that. Also, I had mentioned to the council that we were going to bring you additional information and next steps for our short-term rental ordinance. And we've been working on that real carefully. We've learned that short-term rentals, Verbos, Airbnbs, are a pretty important part of our local economy. There's a lot of them in Georgetown and Scott County. And most contribute positively to their neighborhood. Most are earning income for their owners, and it's a positive thing. But as society creates these new business opportunities, we also look at our need to protect citizens from certain aspects of them. The ordinance that we will bring back to you at the next meeting will address two other features of Airbnb or Verbo short-term rental type operations. One will address capacity of the short-term rental unit. We find that the smaller capacity units seem to blend into neighborhoods very well and make positive contributions. Some of the larger capacity homes, not so much. So we've looked across the state at what other cities have done that we know are workable and something that we can implement, and we're going to follow some of their models and look at some capacity limits. Then we noticed other cities are also looking at limiting the period of time that they can be used consecutively. And in fact, some cities are making it a certain number of days per week. So there's an assured interruption of occupancy at the large units. So those are among the changes that we've been considering very carefully and gathering information. We'll be ready at the next meeting for first reading of that ordinance. If you have any questions, be glad to talk with you now or after we bring first reading. Any questions about any of that? Good, thank you. Under GMWSS, I think Chase is technically on vacation tonight. We have a bid recommendation for the architectural design roofing structures at wastewater plant 2.
Yes, you've just about covered it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound terribly exciting, but
The staff and board is recommending awarding the architectural design contract to Stewart Architectural for wastewater plant number 2 roofing structures. They were the only received bid at $31,500, and the design was budgeted at $50,000. So we would request that the council approve the award to the contract.
Motion.
thank you. And second, thank you, Mark. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Architectural services is for functionality or aesthetics or both?
It's a little of both. There are a few buildings out there that have flat roofs,
Mhm.
and those are a problem. And we've built some newer roofs that are pitched, and we're gonna match those.
Okay,
Take
good.
care of the drainage issues and stuff with the flat roofs.
And it'd be a better look as well.
Yep,
Okay. Anything else tonight?
that's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mhm. Under item 8, Chief Administrative Officer, we have item A is a municipal order approving the cost of a sewer line relocation in Lanes Run Business Park.
I just came right on it. So I'll keep this one simple. You all approved at a past meeting, contract for sale of a piece of property in the business park. And a contingency of that is that we would relocate the sewer line. And we got a little ahead of ourselves, and that we already did that work. Should have come to you all and approved that first, but GMWSS has moved the sewer line, and we're just simply coming now to get that approved after the fact.
Yeah, we're out of sequence, but it really needed to happen.
Yeah.
So moved.
Thank you, Ellen.
Second.
Okay, thank you. If there are no questions about that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item B and C have to do with the work that the council committee has done on the ARPA allocations. And the committee asked, that committee, of course, was Willow, Greg, Todd, and Tammy. They've asked Andrew to present their recommendations, but I've just got to compliment this committee for the amount of work they did on this task. We didn't have enough money to go around. We wish we had more money. But this committee, I'm not sure how many times they met, but it was a lot. They heard from every applicant for funds, probably on multiple occasions. And they worked, they met, they reached consensus. I'm so proud of the fact that this 4-person committee did the work and reached consensus with their recommendations tonight. And what heavy lifting. The rest of us owe you a debt of gratitude for these recommendations. I got to be involved with the committee on a couple of the conversations, but only a couple, and that was because I had a particular interest or I had information concerning a couple of the applications. And so I'll give it back to Andrew, but with my highest compliments to the work these 4 council members did. And I think that they, after you hear the recommendations and the logic behind them, I believe they got it right.
Well, I'll echo what the mayor said, and thank the committee for its diligence. And thank you for asking me to bring your recommendations to the council. I may defer to you all if a question comes up, but as the mayor said, the committee met several times in June, and they committed to anyone who had submitted a funding request prior to that point to interviewing them in person. So they invited all those entities that had requested funds to come formally present to the committee. Every entity that requested funds was funded in some amount. And I think the committee is very proud of that. They wanted to, the committee expressed to me and to the people who made the request that they wanted to spread those funds as equitably and fairly and effectively as they possibly could. And I think they did that. And as the mayor said, they reached unanimous consent on who should get what funding. I believe it's also important they requested, or they have recommended specifically that these allocations go for the amount specified, but also for the projects and purposes specified. And we will make sure, if you all pass the committee's recommendations, to incorporate that into all the documents. You all will recall, I'll add that we've done nonprofit allocations for decades, right? And we haven't, we have strengthened our requirements to match the state law requirements on allocations to nonprofits, which requires a contract. It requires some accountability, copies of budgets, things like that. So we really strived, when we knew we were going to get this ARPA funding, specifically to strengthen our requirements. First thing we did was we made them all submit formal applications on the same document. So we can compare one to the other. And when they get these allocations, they'll be required to sign a contract and to have certain commitments. And those they're not anything that's unreasonable, but they are designed to address transparency and good government. So, like I said, we will make sure that the uses get incorporated into those contracts.
Can you explain Georgetown College, because they're not a nonprofit, so can you explain the use of that?
Yeah. So the committee has recommended that let's see, $200,000 go to an endowment for the Legends and Legacies program. And my understanding of that is that this is money to go to scholarships for students. So that's the way I see this allocation working. It's for the students of Scott County rather than for the use of the college, if that makes any sense.
How is that a nonprofit though?
How's the college a nonprofit?
The college is a not-for-profit. Colleges are not-for-profit entities.
And Karen, it was, what we were to look into were nonprofits and philanthropic work. I don't think it was, I believe everybody that we touched on was a nonprofit, but it was philanthropic work, whether they were nonprofits or not.
So that fits the guidelines of money use.
ARPA does have very specific requirements,
Okay.
and we believe that scholarships meets those requirements. I think there is not a hard and fast rule that says these allocations must go to nonprofits. It must be for specific public purposes, and education is one of those.
Just to give a little more structure for this particular allocation, excuse me, the Legacy and Legend scholarships, it turns out, have had a tremendous impact on Scott County, Georgetown and Scott County. We went from having apparently just a handful of students from Scott County at Georgetown College to today somewhere 130 something. It's been a transformative program designed for Scott County students to attend Georgetown College for no tuition, with the understanding that they live on campus and pay room and board. And it's proven to be a real benefit for Scott County students. Anecdotally, I've heard of 2 families that have moved to Georgetown for the purpose of educating their children at Georgetown, a good public school system, and then the opportunity for this at Georgetown College. The Scott County Scholarship Program would only benefit students from Scott County. And it would help the college offset the cost of those scholarships well into the future. This is a request that is also being made of Scott County government. And the idea is that we would create a three-legged stool and look for other community engagement with the three-legged stool consisting of City of Georgetown, Scott County Fiscal Court, and the Scott County Community and Education Foundation. And the Education Foundation has indicated their willingness to contribute $100,000 toward this scholarship pool, so that collectively, city, county, and Education Foundation can fund a $500,000 endowment that would in perpetuity support Scott County students going to Georgetown College. Because Georgetown College is a private institution, there are some legal steps that we have to take to be very careful, and we're researching what those are now. We know it can be done for the very fundamental reason that KEYS money, the money that students earn through their grade point average, can be used by students going to private colleges. So the fundamental question is absolutely answered that yes, we can do this. How we structure it might have to be a specific way to meet that private college requirement. The request for BCTC is very similar. And I'm sorry, but to take the floor, but these were two big ones that I worked with the two presidents to get the information to bring to the committee. So President Allen obviously is very excited about the opportunity for the Scott County Scholarship Program to be supported by the local community this way. It'll give the college the potential opportunity to go to other communities where they've offered these scholarships, the Legends and Legacy scholarships, and ask for local support of a similar fashion that we're giving. They can go to private foundations and point to what the Scott County Education Foundation has done about the validity of this program and what it's doing for Scott County students. They can make other appeals based on our local support. In the BCTC case, Dr. Acapo wants this money to focus on Scott County students that are taking dual credit courses at BCTC. It turns out it's really exploded. We got a lot of our high school students taking college credit courses, dual credit courses at BCTC. Some are graduating from high school with substantial progress toward an associate degree. There's a cost to those students taking the dual credit courses. What Dr. Acapo wants to accomplish is that any Scott County student that wants to take dual credit courses should not be stopped by financial ability. So his idea is to create a $1 million endowment. Toyota has contributed $250,000. He's asked the city to contribute $250,000, the county to contribute $250,000, and then they will fundraise for the balance of that $1 million endowment. The Scott Education and Community Foundation can step in and help with the $100,000 contribution to BCTC, so that too becomes a three-legged stool supporting Scott County students. So the two educational opportunities are community partnerships with the county and the Education Foundation only for Scott County students. We think it makes a lot of sense.
And now, the entities that are on this, the educational part is, well, they understand this is a one-time,
Yes.
this is a one-time offer
Yes,
at
they do.
this.
And Karen, one of the things that we talked about before we got into the meat of all this is that it was really important for us to touch on as many different vulnerable groups as possible. We could have given, we had requests and we could have given the money to 2 people and been done with it. And it would have been easy, and it would have been well spent.
Mhm.
But what we were trying to do, in this case, there are 2 or 3 things in this package that address the needs of our high school students. And they address them for a long time. I won't say in perpetuity, but, I mean, they're there for a long time. And that was important to us. So, you know, when you look at it, we have something on there for women who are experiencing violence. We have men who are experiencing homelessness. We have hungry people. We have animals. We have students from our high schools. We have parks and recreation. We have our museum. We tried our best to spin this and touch as many different people as we could. And some of the people didn't get as much as they asked for, simply because we wanted to make sure that we spread it around as much as possible. I hope that helps.
Can I ask a quick question that relates to, I guess, what you were just explaining? So the scholarships that Georgetown College has offered in the past, are those going to continue on, I guess, for
Yes.
some time?
Yes.
Yeah.
David, they made a 10-year commitment with with that program.
Okay.
And Mark and I had a chance to talk about this some today. It's to me, it's just fascinating educational policy, and the way this has taken root. The way this works financially is because the college has excess beds. That's simple. They can add 1 or 2 or 3 students and not increase their marginal cost that much. Yet if they have open beds and they sell the room and board, they've got that $10,000 or $11,000 worth of revenue that they didn't have otherwise. So this works because the college has had excess beds. It'll become critical for the college to renovate Knight Hall within the next couple of years. That will bring them back 240 beds on campus. So that's going to be a critical piece of this to keep the free bed, the business model working. Eventually this model runs out of steam because eventually you fill all the rooms. And as you fill all the rooms, then at that point the model doesn't work because you would be giving free tuition to a local student where you might be declining an out-of-state student paying full tuition. So the model at some point has to be replaced. They've made a 10-year commitment and they can do it with the beds. What has to happen during this interim period are things exactly like this. They have to build the understanding of the program and build an endowment great enough to sustain the program when that part of the business model doesn't make sense anymore. It's a bold, innovative move for the college, but I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Mayor, could I add?
And we can
to
play a
that?
part in it.
Yeah. We've also talked a lot about town and gown, and we need to do a better job of integrating the college into our community and the community into the college, and this is a step in that direction. The college is vital to our economy. It's vital to the health of our community, and the college has been struggling. And I think this is a beautiful way to show our commitment to our young people who are vulnerable with student loans and everything else. You hear about that a lot, but also to our community and giving it an educational foundation. And these students, the students who go to school, I could say this in my own family. I have 5 children. The 4 who went out of state for college, they're still out of state. The one who went to Georgetown College, she's still here. And so it also builds a legacy of keeping talent at home, too. So just another insight.
So the formal college route is great for some of our students.
Mhm.
The community college route is great
Is
for
great.
some of our students.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, we're
this,
covering both.
this covers the waterfront, I believe,
Yep.
in a very sincere effort.
It's a really good idea.
Yep.
So Mayor, the money that we're gonna contribute then would cover that room and board, that $10,000,
No,
no?
no, this would be, that endowment needs to grow, David, to get to the cost where the annual endowment return covers the cost of a whole bunch of students
Okay.
going to college.
Okay.
It needs to grow a big endowment.
Okay, I
Yep.
got it. I got it. And I will say this, and Willow, just to tag along with your comments, there's no better investment than the investment of our children. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
how can you
Absolutely.
question investing in our children? And then when you look around the community, that from the folks like Devin, for example, that went to Georgetown College, that are still here, they're living and working in the community, what a contribution they have made as well.
Exactly.
So I believe, I totally see it as an investment.
Yep.
For so many reasons. So anyways.
Great questions, thank you.
The only thing I was going to add, you beat me to it. You know, prior to spending almost 2 hours with you earlier this afternoon, I had concerns. And listening before I talked, and just taking all the information in, it's an investment.
Mhm.
It is. And to get the buy-in, there's multiple entities that are, hopefully will ultimately contribute to this. So it's not just the city. There's other entities, and I think it's a win-win for the whole community.
Yep.
Good.
Wish she was here back in the day when I went to Georgetown College.
I'm from Scott County, so I wouldn't have benefited.
Would you all like to go over these allocations individually, or you want to consider them all at once, or?
I think it'd be nice to read them for the community's sake.
Let's do that. Okay, so, first, the committee has recommended $200,000 for the purchase of real property for Elizabeth's Village. $10,000 to Habitat for Humanity for a house on Water Street and for programming for veterans. $200,000 to the Humane Society towards the construction of their new building. They've already purchased their property. This would go
No.
towards
How much did you say?
20,000, sorry,
20,000,
20,000,
yeah.
not 200,000.
You did zero. That zero makes a
Zero
difference.
in there. That's why they let those two read the ordinance.
Yeah, single digit, what do you
Yeah,
think?
single digit. 100,000 to the Ed Davis Learning Center for renovation of the Ed Davis Learning Center building. $10,000 to tourism for a mural program. And I'm happy to chat with any of you all about that afterwards. Because that was kind of my idea. 21,000 towards the purchase of a community stage. I'm assuming that's replacing the existing stages that they already had.
And I think that they borrow often
Yes,
from
they
other
do.
people.
Yeah.
And it's a need that they have in
Mhm.
communities, so it's used for a lot of different things, so.
$200,000 to the Amen House for the purchase of property. $10,000 to Friends of the Park for a covered shelter at the accessible playground at the pavilion. $100,000 to the Gathering Place for the purchase of property. $28,000 to the Georgetown Scott County Museum for the purchase of items for the museum. I don't know what those items are, but I'm assuming they.
There's a list.
Yeah, there's a
List.
complete
I mean,
list. There's
We didn't, yeah.
I didn't-
display
cases,
shelving and
Museum
just
stuff.
what was the?
software.
Yeah.
Cases, chemicals to keep things from
Right.
decaying, so forth. And we tied it to the list that they brought to us.
Right.
They put it in order of importance.
Mhm.
We already talked about the $200,000 to BCTC and the $200,000 to Georgetown College. And then the last is an allocation to the Nursing Home Ombudsman Program, $1,000 for Georgetown. And now all those together total $1.1 million, which you all will recall, we allocated exactly $1.1 million in the budget specifically for philanthropic, government, and civic purposes. So this falls within that. This would completely use up that fund. I think it's unrealistic to expect that all of that money will get drawn within this budget year, but we have until 2024 to have allocated that funding. I think you'll technically be satisfying that here, and you have until 2026 to spend it. So well within that time frame.
Andrew, $500,000 of it looks like it's going towards the purchase of property essentially. Explain, and I know we've talked about this and we wanted some safeguards in place. I know you said earlier that we follow state law and all that, but can you give a little bit more detail on how that might work?
Are you asking whether they have to follow any specific requirements with
Well,
respect
I mean,
to?
for somebody that maybe hasn't purchased the property yet, I guess we'll hold the money, just how that,
Yeah.
you know, what has to transpire to trigger the release of the funds?
We would anticipate that they would be required to provide proof for something like a capital purchase that they have purchased it, and to submit invoices for that kind of.
So if at closing they needed the funds, we could issue a check?
Yes.
The check could be, those funds could be made available for the closing or at the closing.
Right.
Is that-
Yes. Where
And
you-
several of them, under contract.
Yeah, under contract.
Several of the places already have the property, like Elizabeth's Village has purchased the property,
Okay,
and they're doing renovation of the house.
Renovations.
that's the house, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and the Amen House, they have an agreement, but they don't have anything under contract yet. And the funds would not be released until such time as they did.
Under contract.
And if they don't,
Yeah.
ever within this time frame, then we would have the money, it would not be given.
Yeah, I think it's our duty to monitor this funding, and if we get to a point where we're worried about the allocation not actually being spent, we probably would have to revisit that contract and say, hey, we don't want that money to go back to the federal government, so.
And you know, we were clear, we asked every group that came in the same questions, because we wanted everybody to have a fair, you know, we didn't want to be partial or have our minds already made up. We also told them that it was one-time spending only, and we could not give them anything for regular operating expenses. And we did say that, you know, if it's something for purchase in the future, we have a certain amount of time before we have to spend the money. So when your contracts are ready is when you would receive the money, should we agree to allocate for that. So I think everybody understands that we just don't write a check that isn't tied to something.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize, I guess, maybe that if it's going towards a purchase, that money not be released until
Yes.
essentially
Absolutely.
at the
No.
closing.
Yes, no, there's,
And
Deals fall
and
apart.
some
you
of
know,
those.
Yep,
it's just
they do.
happens.
Yeah, that's right. Some of those entities sort of bear the risk that they can raise the rest of their funds.
Yes.
Mhm.
And we can always provide a letter to the,
Right.
you know, the seller or the lending institution.
That's right.
that's providing the additional financing.
Yep.
Yeah, we're a constant.
Yeah,
They can count on our
right.
Give them a copy of the
They'll
MO.
sign the
You
letter.
got it.
Is the gathering place, have they bought
Now, what they're doing is they're renting now. And then the person who they're renting from is selling the property. And what they're looking to do is to raise enough money so that their mortgage, to buy the property, and that their mortgage would be what their rent is.
Is, yes.
So they're looking for a contribution from as many different people as they can get, so that if they are able to purchase the property, their mortgage won't be any more than their rent was. So,
But
And
David,
that-
we were very careful to anticipate your question exactly, and, you know, that money is not gonna go until we have a guarantee that it's going for the purpose that they said, and not before.
Good, thank you.
And the recipients are aware of that too, that they will not get the money.
And these responses really answer all of the questions raised in an email that Mr. Glass sent you all today.
Right, yeah.
So, and in particular, the first question, we did do this allocation by budget for this $1.1 million, and then we're addressing that very specifically tonight. So I think this is the appropriate way to handle it.
Yep.
Mayor, the only thing I want to add is, correct me if I'm wrong, on any information I'm giving, please correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I believe earlier, it was either late winter or early spring of this year, our state government decided to put a $500,000 expenditure in the state budget for one of the nonprofits here in Scott County, which ultimately got approved. And then I also believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that our county government has made a commitment of $500,000 to one of the nonprofits here in the community as well.
I think that's on their list to be discussed, or it's been approved, one of the, it may have been approved or recommended.
A recommendation, I apologize.
Mhm.
Recommendation. So I guess my point is that, you know, I'm not sure what's going to happen ultimately when we vote here in a few minutes on this municipal order. But there are other government, whether it's county government, state government, you know, we're not going out on a limb on our own. There are other people that realize the importance, that either live here and work here, or live here and work in Frankfurt, to realize the importance of our nonprofits. And it's an investment in trying to make a community even better than what it is.
I think that's
Many of these entities asked fiscal court to make similar donations in tandem. So I think some of those discussions are ongoing.
One of our questions that we asked each entity was, how are you raising funds other than asking us for money?
Yep.
And we asked them to, if they got some sort of donation of any size, in the meantime, between the time that they met with us and the time that we made our decision, if they would stay in contact with us. Because like the entity you're talking about, they got the $500,000. Well, let's say that if the county did it and the $1 million was all they needed, then why do we need to give them $200,000? That in case their campaign is something like $2 million, but some of the nonprofits have gotten back with us and said, we received a $15,000 grant, or we received this in the meantime, but nowhere have they gotten to what their total project costs, or we would have gone back and adjusted, you know, if they were already a certain amount toward their goal. We also thought it was important that they had other means of financing besides coming to the state
Yep.
government and asking us to carry the load. So I'm glad you brought that up.
No, my point was, I appreciate that, was that we're just one body. There are other bodies that realize the importance of what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Before we vote too, I want to say, we did meet a lot and we listened to a lot of different people, and there's a lot of good stuff going on in this town.
Yep.
That we don't even know about.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things out there for people that are in trouble.
Mhm.
And it's a pleasure. It was a lot of work, but it was a pleasure. And it makes me feel real good about our city. We're doing a lot of good things. And, you know, often, one of the other, one nonprofit would say, well, if you give us money, make sure you give so-and-so money because we work together.
Yeah.
And so many of the ones overlap with what they do. And they try to make it, have synergy with other nonprofits so that it isn't just 1 + 1 = 2, but it's equals 4 or 5 instead. If that makes any sense. I think it does. But it was a pleasure to hear from everybody and all the good work that's being done.
You know, Tammy, it's eye-opening. Several of us in the room have had the opportunity to be president of Scott County United Way. And back in the years when we did allocations, more direct allocations to local groups, and you'd spend a day and a half listening to presentations from community groups about work being done in the community that you had no idea that in our day-to-day lives we don't see. And it also caused you to occasionally have to look into corners of our community that we sometimes don't look at.
Yep.
And being willing to look at it and not avert your gaze. And you all had some of that experience. And you see how many people are working to do this stuff.
We have a lot to be proud of, yes, we do.
Mark, your question, the fiscal court approved $500,000 in the budget for Amen House, I'm pretty sure. So they've gotten $1 million thus far, and with this approval, it'll be 1.2.
They're well on their way to
They're
something.
well on their way, yes, yes, well on their way.
Mayor, do we need a motion?
We do need a motion.
I so move.
Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to accept the committee's recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you again for the work of the committee and a unanimous vote of the council on something that could have fragmented in 20 different directions. So I compliment the council on your handling of this. Let's see. Thank you. Now we go to item C under City Attorney. First reading of an amendment to the alcohol ordinance. Sponsors Ms. Tackett and Mr. Lusby. This is purely a technical change to bring us in line with state law that's had a change or two.
Ordinance related to manufacturing and trafficking in alcoholic beverages from the city of Georgetown and providing for regulations such as summary 1, amend section 4-99K to establish consistent with 2022 Kentucky House Bill 250 to provide a requirement for employees selling and serving alcoholic beverages and exceptions thereto, specifically lowering the minimum server age to 18 and excluding persons under the age of 20 involved in. 2, provide for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions and effective date upon passage of publication. The full text of the ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office on 104th Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 4054, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time July 11, 2022.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll have second reading at our next meeting. Under Fire Department, we have a municipal order approving the renewal of our contract for physical exams. Anything to add there, Tim, or is it just that straightforward?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, so.
All right. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion, second.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tammy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. And it looks like a municipal order approving contract for uniforms. We want you to have uniforms.
Motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made
Second.
and second. Thank you all. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Under City Engineer, item 11 is a municipal order approving a street dedication in Rocky Creek Reserve subdivision.
Make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
And second. Thanks, Tammy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Item 12, under Human Resources, we have second reading of a personnel ordinance amendment reassigning our sanitation employees to the Public Works Department. Sponsors Mr. Hampton and Stone.
Section 2-11 of ordinances to eliminate sanitation and recycling departments division and add a portion of the eliminate positions to the public works department. Summary 1, amend section 2-11C of the code ordinances to delete all sanitation and recycling positions and add 2 positions of crew leader, 6 positions of maintenance worker, and 1 position of mechanic to the public works department. 2, provide for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions for the effective
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Mayor.
Thank you, Greg.
Mayor, I have a question. I've had a couple of people contact me about this, and they just need an explanation of what work they'll be doing that needed to be done, that this is going to actually catch us up with needed areas. So if you could just speak to that for a minute, I could get a fuller answer.
You know, what we've been doing now, of course, mowing right now has been big. So we've had a lot of new mowing areas we've added on. We've got a crew that's doing stormwater repairs and clean outs and stuff, all the catch basins around town. And, you know, we lag behind on them as far as getting trees cleared out where the state gives Eddie a list every year.
Mhm.
We're catching up on that. We're doing some, right now we're doing some remodeling to some buildings, so we can, city clerk and other departments can move. The biggest thing is gonna be the stormwater
Okay.
issue. Different things, we've got 2 landfills we have to take care of. We mow Briar Hill every week. Sims Road, we have to mow 3 times a year. This is the first year since I've been back that, we're gonna get to mow it 3 times. So,
Yeah.
that's what the state requires us to do.
Mhm.
So that's what they're doing now.
Okay. I've assured them
Plus-
that
plus other
we've needed
things.
these workers before. This is just helping us get done
Yes,
necessary
it's helping
work.
us get stuff that we've always put
That's-
on the back burner.
Yeah.
They
It's
also
just-
do a lot of stuff with the traffic committee too, I'm sorry, putting up signs and.
Oh, yeah, well, that,
but
we're
they've
doing a
been
little bit.
that, but
In the past, on the signs, we did them as we needed.
Mhm.
We have increased the stop sign thing that we've been working on for about 3.5, 4 years. We got Bradford and Paynes Crossing done last week. We have finished Richfield, Mansions, Harmony Ridge. Next, we're going to the Colony. We've got those signs. So, I mean, but that's something we always did.
Yeah.
And we've got our big sign, I just got 100 of them in the other day, is if you ever notice, a lot of our no parking signs on this side of the street
Yeah.
are unreadable.
Yeah.
So that's one of our next big things, signage wise.
Yeah. Well, Robert can give a really good inventory of what the activities are, but I think what folks really are asking and what you're trying to be able to give them is, what are we doing with this additional manpower
Yes.
that we're bringing on board? And first off, we've been understaffed really for a long, long time. They just simply haven't had the manpower to do a lot of things. We're going to catch up eventually. We're going to get cleaner.
Mhm.
Cleanliness in the community is all about an expression of pride. We've talked about we're going to get cleaner. Over time, we have to get these people in. We have to catch up, but we can trim areas better. We can make downtown look cleaner. David has advocated for years work on interchanges.
Yeah.
The county is now interested in collaborating on interchanges. They want to dedicate road department employees. We can now be real partners in something like that. So it's not something that they're going to see immediately, but boy, is it going to have an impact.
Yeah.
It's going to have a big impact, and we look forward to that.
Yeah, I do too. I just wanted it expressed
Yeah.
publicly
understand.
so people understand this is a need. It's
Yeah.
not a surplus.
yes.
So,
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to do
Right.
that.
And a lot of things that we had done in the past, up till 2020, we used a lot of the inmate crew. We
Yeah.
haven't been able to do that in the last couple of years.
mhm.
So we got kind of behind on some things. But just cleaning up the city properties
Big
takes
job.
a big chunk.
Yeah.
And we had that, when we had an event or something that needed cleaning up or a big activity, we had that reservoir of sanitation workers that we could
Yeah.
use for a day or a while, or we don't have that now.
Yeah.
We have to be autonomous and be able to do our own. We don't have a sanitation department to raid now.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, item 13 under Police Department is second reading of an amendment to the alarm system code provisions.
Roll call on that, Mayor.
Oh,
Motion, but we didn't have a second, and we didn't have a roll call.
well, those are such technicalities. I'm telling you the truth. Thank you. Well, we got a second. On some level, I was aware of that, but we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Call the roll.
Okay, Mrs. Sackett?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Saints?
Yes.
Mrs. Leslie Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Wosby?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayner?
Yes.
Thank you. Now 13 is second reading of an amendment to the alarm system code provisions. Sponsors Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Showalter.
An ordinance amending Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Article 3 regarding the regulation of alarm systems in the city of Georgetown. Summary. 1. Amend Section 12-47 to update outdated definitions, add necessary definitions, and delete obsolete or unnecessary definitions. 2. Amend Section 1248 and 1249 to provide more succinct and modernized responsibilities for alarm businesses and alarm users. 3. Sections 1250 through 1253 in their entirety, eliminating the specific provisions regarding equipment and technical standards, the requirement and process for obtaining an alarm user permit, the corrective action taken for false alarms under the permit requirement, and the police consolidated alarm system requirement. 4. Creates a new section, Chapter 12, Article 3, to establish the response to false alarm penalties associated with West and HIP. 5. Amend Section 1254 to provide for penalties and enforcement of violations of article for which a penalty has not yet been signed. 6. Provide for repeal of increases of law, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage and publication. The text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 101 Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced to public and read the first time, June 27, 2022. Hopefully read the second time, July 11, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tammy. Any questions on this? If not, we'll call the roll.
Mrs. Hamber?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Leslie?
Yes.
Mrs. Leslie Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Saints?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Sackett?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. I know our dispatch folks will, it'd be interesting, Chief, at some point to get a report to see if that's cleaned things up. Thank you. Item 14 under Public Works is a municipal order approving a salt bid. Boy, that sounds right when it's 91 degrees outside, Robert.
You gotta get it done.
Got to get it done, that's right. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second,
And second, thank you, Greg. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, council comments. Willa, can we start with you?
Sure. I'm just so thankful that when we first got the ARPA funds, I know that I was a bit insistent about making sure that we did questionnaires and advertise. I was driving Andrew crazy, I think, but I feel really good that we were able to personalize some of the ARPA funds in ways that touch people. And I know that sidewalks and streetlights and water issues also touch people, but the community actually got to communicate with us as a city council in a very personal way as we discuss these, and that is going to ripple out and allow people to see that even though many of these entities are already in our normal budgeted giving, which I don't think people realize that unless you listen to the budget every year, this is an over and above one-time gift that says we care. And I think we can all feel really good about that. I just have a question, Mayor, about do we know what happened at the magistrate meeting with the interlocal agreement for homelessness?
Oh, it passed.
It passed, okay.
Yes,
I
we're all
hadn't heard.
systems go.
So that's taken care of, and that will be
Receiving applicants and.
currently,
And it's all, just we're set.
okay.
Hey, Mayor, just so nobody gets confused when the fiscal court has it on their agenda at next meeting, they actually approved it but didn't pass a resolution, which is required under the act, so they'll be passing it again.
Okay, that's why I was a
To formalize the
bit
resolution.
confused already.
When you see that, it's just a formality for the statute, so, but they did approve it at the last meeting.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and then Judge had texted us that, done.
They texted us that it passed, and I emailed them today to get a copy of their resolution, and they said, well, we didn't, I think Stacy Hamilton was out when they were making the agenda, so,
Okay, so they approved it on voice vote.
they approved it on voice vote, they'll pass the resolution at the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank-
fantastic.
Thank you for that update.
Yeah,
So don't be confused with my.
thank you, that's all, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
Couple of things. First of all, the Fourth of July parade, as you said, I think it was the largest one I've ever been a part of. And I want to thank the Georgetown Fire Department and for letting us ride on ladder number 2. Had fun, even though we were at the end of it. It seemed like it took us forever. As we were taking off, I think the start of the parade was already finished. So it was that large. So, but I do
Saved the best
appreciate
for
that. Yeah, what's that?
They saved the best for last.
They did,
Yeah, right.
they did. So, we appreciate that, had a lot of fun, so. Secondly, with the committee work, I want to, thank the mayor for, having the committee do this. As I said in our last council meeting, it really opened my eyes to a lot of things going on in Georgetown and a lot of organizations that are helping people in need. There's a lot of good things going on. I think we should be really proud. I think we touched most everyone that we could with the ARPA funds. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the fruits of what we have sowed. So it was good. And I appreciate Tammy, Willow, and Todd, who's not here tonight, working with them. It was a great experience, and I think we all worked well together, and so it was good. So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Greg.
I do have a couple of things. One, the stables, the old stable
Mhm.
entrance, their sign as to what the street is on, when you turn into it, it's on the opposite side, and you can't see it turning in. And they have requested if that sign could be moved to the side, as when you're turning in, you can see the street sign. It's kind of opposite, and it's kind of hidden over there. So that was one request. And then I want to say kudos to Eddie for taking care. There was a citizen that came to the shop, was very upset about a sidewalk situation, and was working with the sidewalk. And Eddie got right on it, talked to him, and I think there was some confusion. Eddie met with them and got it taken care of. The citizen called me back, was very happy with the response, and I said, that is good government. And you get directly with the citizen, you work with them, and you work it out. So kudos to Eddie for doing that. And then we all received an email from Casey Mattingly, kind of a complicated situation. It lives in Pleasant Valley, and part of it is owned by one HOA, part of it's owned by another HOA, and there's grass in the middle between the two that's growing up, and weeds and stuff. Have you heard about it yet?
No.
Well, apparently he went to code enforcement, and every time you go back there and mow, because it's kind of in a stream, then the other HOA would call and get him in trouble. Actually, the police officers came out to visit him, told him he couldn't be mowing back there, it was trespassing. And so he's tried to work it out, and he hasn't been able to get any resolution.
He's in
on it.
Pleasant Valley?
He's in Pleasant Valley, he's on one side, that's on the other side where it's at. So finally though, Eddie, when he talked to me, I finally called to Eddie, and Eddie went to do some investigating, talked to him again, and found out, well, maybe it's not as easy as we think, but he actually, because I kept telling him he couldn't mow it because it's a wetland. Well, Eddie went to planning and zoning, and Ben says, no, it's not a wetland, so it's.
Probably just a drainage, he can mow it.
It's a drainage back there, but they're giving him heck grief for mowing it, so if we can kind of help him work that out with, I guess.
Dueling HOAs, that sounds like a nightmare.
We talked about.
We'll get them on the fireworks.
When she said HOAs earlier, I thought,
It's not simple, but
Yeah.
we'll continue to look into it.
Okay, all right.
But it is definitely not that person's property to mow. We'll look into whether it can be mowed, but
But if it's,
for the
if,
record, that's
for
definitely
his,
not.
for his, in his defense, maybe he shouldn't be mowing it, but it should be mowed. And so the HOA is telling him not to mow it, still fine, but then they need to mow it. And mow it.
there is a portion of that that is a wetland under, and so I'll talk to Ben about it,
But
but
the
the
wetland-
question is whether the entire area constitutes a wetland.
But
under
still,
that.
even if it's constituted a wetland, there's a difference between you can't mow a wetland and you can't fill in a wetland. So there is a difference there in that too, so.
There's a portion that's restricted under a covenant where you actually can't mow it at all. But I don't think that's the whole thing, so
Yeah, I
we'll
don't
have to
think so
look into
either.
that. But yeah, we've spoken to both parties on this, and like Andrew said, there are a lot of factors floating. I think I was hoping that Eddie, maybe code enforcement, and this HOA president would determine whether there was a way to mow a portion that was allowed under that covenant, but I can follow up and see whether any communication was made.
So you all are working on it then?
Yes, I haven't spoken to anybody on it for probably 2 weeks, but yes, we have been in contact.
Okay, 'cause he is saying, just for FYI, he is saying that they're mowing it on their side up to the stream, but they're not letting him mow it on his side up to the stream. So you all know what's going on. We'll be back with you. So, okay, that's
And-
it.
And I appreciate your compliment of Eddie's work. Eddie, on a daily basis, makes the city look good. And he bails me out, and he goes and talks with citizens, and he's just got a great way about him, and he helps them find solutions.
Yeah, when you have a citizen that's angry, and you can say, well, wait a minute, and he says, nobody will talk to me, nobody will give me service, nobody will pay attention to me, I'm just lonely on the totem pole, so to speak, and then you can get somebody to go talk to them and then actually work out the situation. That's good government.
Eddie's he's got a skill
Yes.
at working with people that way. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
David?
Mayor, I'll tag along on that. Eddie, you're talking about the skills, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but not everybody that does his job has people skills. So he does. He's got the engineering part of it, but he's also got the ability to communicate really well with people. And he's pretty task oriented. He seems to get a lot done pretty efficiently. So I do want to thank the committee as well. I can't say enough about that. You all did a great job. Thanks for your recommendations. I know there was a lot of time and effort put into that, and I know Andrew and the mayor contributed a lot to that as well. There's no doubt about that. So thank you all. Chief Boss, you did a great job today. You represented the city well at the chamber luncheon. So thank you for that. Mayor, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, I just want to echo, great job, everybody here, and I appreciate it, because we do touch a lot of people, and we do have a great community, for sure. We do a lot of things, and it is eye-opening. One thing I wanted to ask you, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind updating us on Cardinal Drive, because I talked to Eddie today, and we got funding, but our bid came back $1 million more than we have.
Yeah, so we actually bid it out a second time, so the state required us to rebid it, and the bids actually came in pretty consistent with last time, but we still only got one bid. So as of now, the state, we've sent our recommendation of award letter, our engineers sent that, and with that is still our request for additional funding to actually be able to fund the project. So we still have that gap, where we need over $1 million.
Right.
So that request is in, they're evaluating the bid packages, and hopefully we'll get back up funding
That'd be
sooner rather
great.
than later.
I know
Those
there's-
letters went Friday, of the recommendation of award.
But those, the bid wasn't good news.
No.
We just blew up again. Even though we had scoped it in a way that we thought we might get a different outcome.
Exactly, and I understand that, but I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware of that we were still working on it, because that has also been an ongoing project.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, everything's good. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Tammy?
All good, thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
This is Henry brought something up, it just made me think, street lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for our intersections. We need a report on that. Can y'all help, help?
I
You talking
do.
about the
Go
street
ahead.
lights that are supposed to go in on state roads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had an update in a while. The last update was, we were trying to get numbers from, when you put in the standard street light, it was all gonna be covered.
Right.
It was all gonna be covered under our tariff, and we were looking at nicer lights, and we're still trying to get quotes on those nicer lights, so we're hung up there. But I will follow up with Eddie on that. That's the critical sticking point.
Yep.
And we really, I think we want the upgrade. I don't think we want to put in standard lights at those
It's
intersections.
not, and it's complicated further by the fact that those newer lights have different, different requirements in terms of the conduit you use and the bases that are used and the places they can be put in. So it's physical different requirements that we're trying to work through as well.
Okay.
Encroachment type provisions.
Sure would be nice to have some pretty light poles around those dark
It
intersections.
sure would.
Maybe the next mayor can get that done, Mark. I don't know. I have failed. Anything else, Mark?